Oh, yeah. All right. Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Born to Late podcast with Josh and Jay. This is Josh flying solo tonight, but fear not, Jay will be back next episode. Our guest tonight is well known to almost any fan of modern day pop punk. With his band, the Tattle Tales, Christian Migliorese released 3 albums and several EPs in the 2000s, including 2006 Hearts in Tune, one of my favorite albums of the current century or of any century. In 2016, he launched his new band, The Feels, who have a brilliant album called Dead Skin and a still very recent single titled She's Probably Not Thinking of Me. Christian is an incredibly talented singer and songwriter, as well as a true champion of pure pop music. Without any further ado, let's welcome Christian to our podcast. How's it going?
Thank you. Wow, what a nice introduction. I don't think anybody's ever spoken so highly of me before. Appreciate it.
So we're just going to jump right into this. And just could you tell us a little bit about how you came to love pop music?
Well, pop music just was, I think it just feels like it was always there. I don't particularly remember a time where I fell for it. I just remember it always being a source of happiness. And, you know, the earliest memories that are positive ones are of music and songs and dancing and melodies. And, you know, it just feels like it was just always there, you know? And I don't know, it's just like, it's still to me like the purest form of just songs. So yeah, it's I love it.
Yeah, me too. Which is a great reason why we're talking to each other tonight. That's kind of our little celebration of pop. And on that note, the label pop, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But when you think of that term pop, what does that mean to you?
You know, I was thinking about this recently, actually, because it really kind of doesn't matter what genre you're into, but I'm sorry. Can you hear that too loudly in the background?
Sounds great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So loud for me. Yeah, like it doesn't really matter like what genre you're into. Like pretty much all of us, what we do is there's an intro, there's a verse, there's a pre-chorus, a chorus, sometimes a post-chorus, a bridge, chorus, maybe a guitar solo, maybe some sort of other thing. So it becomes harder and harder for me to differentiate like what is what, but like everyone's just kind of contributing to like, you know, whatever you would call like the big song, you know, like we're all just doing the same thing really. And I don't know, I guess if you had to pin down some like traits of pop music, I guess it would be, I guess, more repetitive, more catchy, more like direct than other types of music, more rhythmic, and perhaps more memorable. But you know, I love every style, and you know, we all kind of do the same thing though, which is kind of funny. You know, everyone's worried about being original, but we really just all do the same thing.
Yeah. If I hear a great song, I'm not even thinking about whether or not it's original. I just do I love the song.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I've always felt. And I never, oh God, man, I never understood like people who just listen to like one or two styles of music or a few bands, or I just would drive me crazy. And I mean, there are certain genres where I don't like a ton of it, but I pretty much love an artist or a band in any genre I can think of. There's just so much good stuff out there, and it's like, again, like this, nobody's doing anything that's like too different than what you're into. It's just, you got to look at it like a different way.
Very true. I think the longer I am in this business of trying to write about music and describe the music, I realize how similar all of these different styles of music really are.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and certainly there's a difference between, like, the Archies and like Metal Machine music, but like, those are outliers. Like, it really just kind of depends on like how much you got the guitar turned up and how loud the drums are, and obviously there's differences in styles, but like, people are too close-minded to what they're into and won't open their minds to stuff that's really not too dissimilar.
Absolutely.
What I find funny, what I actually find hilarious is that I know so many dudes, and it's mostly dudes, who are like big power pop heads, like they're real big into like the power pop singles, and they love old power pop, and they love all the stuff that the Ramones were, influenced by. And but then it stops at a certain time, a certain year. It's like they can't deal with bubblegum anymore. It's like, oh, that shit's too cookie cutter. It's too. I'm like, what do you think? What do you think? Like, the Ohio fruit gum and all, I don't know what, all that old bubblegum stuff. I mean, that's literally just like made, like, it's like a product. Like, it's just funny to me, like, what people can accept as cool bubblegum, but then like, oh no, I can't listen to an Ariana Grande song. Like, wait, why? Like, it's just as much of a jam, it's a little different, sure, but I don't know. That really strikes me as funny. Like I love that old bubblegum stuff too, but like a great bubblegum song with like a really complex chord progression and a really interesting arrangement with a great vocal on top. Like, you can't beat that, really. And it's like, it's just one of those things that never goes out of style. And I just don't understand why there seems to be such like a cutoff for so many people. So many record collectors just can't get into newer stuff, and I don't know why. I've never been able to like pinpoint it down.
It's odd. We love bubblegum, but only if it was before 1980.
Yeah,
maybe 1995. Maybe that's the cutoff.
Right. What? Yeah, or X. It depends on how old you are and whoever we're talking about. But yeah.
So the Tattle Tales, one of my favorite pop punk bands of the 2000s for sure. Wow, and I always thought that there was just something about the Tattle Tales that made the band unique in that scene. What do you think? What kind of set the Tattle Tales apart from other pop punk bands?
People listened to the other bands. That mostly set us apart from them. No. I don't know, man. That's a nice thing to say. I guess if there was anything, it would be that I was the primary songwriter. Well, actually, even if we're talking about Jonathan Hernandez, who wrote Armageddon Girl on Hearts in Tune, like, he was also like really into a lot of stuff too. But I would say, because I love all styles of music, and like I have an influence from all of it, and maybe that's the thing that kind of set us apart. Like, we had there weren't a ton of bands that had the keyboard kind of sounds that we did. I don't think. Like, we kind of tried to take from like the Rentals and kind of some of the Weezer B-sides and try and cop that sound and kind of fuse it with Green Day-esque stuff. And somebody once said, and it's still to me the most accurate description of, I mean, maybe still now, but they said like your band sounds like a mix of old Green Day and Billy Joel, and I was like, wow, that really kind of makes sense. And I've loved it ever since. It could have been the most accurate thing I've ever heard. But obviously I love a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I mean, perhaps that I don't know.
That would explain a lot about why I dug the band so much.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong with Billy Joel
yeah.
or Green Day.
Dude was just like he just was a hit maker. Like, growing up, like I mean, God, I was a literal child in the '80s, and I couldn't deny songs by like Phil Collins and Billy Joel and Prince and Michael Jackson, and all of them. It was great music. Like I'm pretty sure like anybody who's into music, doesn't matter how old you are, like you love what you love, so they'll probably say the same thing. But like I was blessed to be the age I was in the '80s, and I was blessed to be the age I was in the '90s, to like be like 10 or 11 when like Nirvana was coming out, and then 13, 14 when Green Day came out, and then like to live that whole thing as a teenager was, God, I mean, it was just great,
Yeah, an incredible time for music, an incredible time to be a kid listening to music, I am sure.
Yeah, it was an absolute treat. To me, it felt like the last true time where the best music was also charting that, like, everywhere, like it was not only great, but it was popular too, like modern rock in the '90s was actually great. Like that's, you don't really get that anymore. Don't get me wrong, there are still top artists that are really great, talented songwriters. Like, oh my God, have you heard that new Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak duo that they released? So
I have not.
They put out 2 songs, and it literally sounds like Sunshine from the '70s. Like it's,
Oh wow.
oh yeah, you have to hear it. It's incredible. There's a lot of good stuff. I just,
So on that note, who are some of your favorite like mainstream artists these days?
Mainstream artists. Well, my favorite group right now is Red Velvet. They're a South Korean group. They're, in my opinion, they'd be the biggest group in the world if they spoke English. They have a couple English songs, but and who knows, maybe they're planning on more of a United States promotion thing. But yeah, they're incredible. I listen to them a lot. It's hugely popular, just not here. In terms of the United States, I love Ariana Grande. I think she's like one of the most talented performers that we've ever had. Seems really cool too. And stuff that's like not quite mainstream, but like just under the surface. My favorite band is Muna. They're three women from California, and I don't know. It's like a mix of like Carly Rae Jepsen and like the saddest Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears songs. It's like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like really sad it's like bangers to cry to.
Oh.
Yeah, they're wonderful. But I still love, like the Beths are one of my favorite pop punk bands going on right now. They're nobody is as good as them. Nobody is as good as the Beths right now. In terms of like more dream kind of power pop, I love Always. I'm begging that they come out with a 3rd album soon. I heard that they were going to, and their label Polyvinyl hinted at it. I'm dying to hear it. What else am I into these days? I listen to a ton of new music. I mostly listen to new music to be honest. But I'll always keep the the greats in my rotation. But I also love Luna. They're another South Korean group. It's one of the craziest. And speaking of pop music, Josh, it's one of the craziest pop projects I've ever heard about. I mean, so Luna has 12 members, right?
Oh my goodness.
12 members, and all 12 of them have solo stuff, and they also have 3 subgroups within the group that all do different styles of music, but all of their music videos are one story. It's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's like loving a group and like a Netflix show at the same time. it's absolutely wild, and it's so much fun. Like I mean, I can't imagine exactly how many people listening to this would get into Luna, but even if there's 2 of them, they should do it. They're so good.
well, I feel like we've got a lot of pop people listening to this episode, so let's see
Yeah.
if we get a surge of new interest. So if we're talking about pop music, it kind of almost always gravitates to love songs. Such a common theme in pop music. 'Cause, I mean, love songs have probably existed in some form or another for 1,000 years.
I feel like every song is just a love song. It's like every song, when you boil it down, is about love or sex or betrayal.
Yeah. So what do you think separates a great love song from a not so great love song?
That's an interesting question. The boring answer would be feeling and emotion and all that crap. And and to an extent, of course, that's true. But I'm gonna, I'm very rarely like. I love so many styles of music, and I love so many artists, but I'm also so rarely impressed by anybody because I'm really picky. So I'm gonna say what separates a good love song from a regular ass boring love song is a song that's able to be executed well and performed well and sung well. That way I can even start to pay attention to it. Because if it's not, I'm not going to pay attention to it, and I don't want to listen to it. I'm not going to force myself to listen to shitty vocals or like a shitty mix or a shitty you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
So I think that's the first step. And then, it doesn't really matter what genre it is I'm listening to. It's always about vocals and it's always about melody. So, if it's a love song, if it's a feeling that I've felt sung by a singer whose voice I love, singing a melody that, is expressive and longing. I mean, that's got to be it. If I had to boil it down, it's probably it, because I don't want to hear even the saddest or truest love songs sung by somebody who shouldn't be singing.
Excellent point.
In that case, just write poetry, because there are so many incredible people who write great lyrics, great lines, and are great poets, but just don't have. I mean, it's all subjective, right? People love Bob Dylan's voice. I can't stand it. But, he's an amazing songwriter. So there's always going to be somebody who will love your voice. But yeah, I mean, that's what I say.
Speaking of love songs, you've written some ones that I think are quite excellent. So I'm just wondering, with all of those love songs, do you generally write these songs from personal experience?
Yeah. For better or worse, like pretty much everything I write is kind of just like a diary. It's just sort of like, here's what happened, sometimes in succession. I don't, I try to turn a word every now and then, but really, it's just kind of direct stories of what's happened to me. So Yeah, I can't think of a love song I wrote that wasn't, you know, me being emo about something.
Well, that's amazing. You can turn all of that pain and suffering into something beautiful and memorable.
Thanks, man. I mean, thank God I can do something like that because I'm a sensitive guy too. Like always, I'm always in my feelings about some bullshit. So if I didn't have this outlet, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I like a lot of people can fall into depression, and it is the light of my life that I can write songs. It's just, and just music in general, just listening to music. It's just, yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's a double-edged sword to be this like sensitive or whatever, but you know, you gotta, you gotta feel to write them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Fields, you debuted the Fields in 2016. Obviously, you had a new band name, so it wasn't just the Tattle Tales Part Two.
Yeah.
So beyond the fact that this was a one person band, how might you say the Fields is different from your previous work?
Well, I guess I would just firmly place the Tattle Tales as like a pop punk, power pop kind of band. And I guess if anything, I guess the Feels was more of like just like a moniker to sort of do anything I wanted to, you know? Um, whether it's pop punk or power pop or, light VH1 90s alt rock or, singers songwritery stuff or electro pop. I just put all that stuff on Dead Skin because I just thought they were good songs and they were all sort of about the same kind of cycle of my life at the time. And plus, I wasn't going to go call it the Tattletales because it wasn't. So I figured, good, good time to sort of, I didn't want it just to be my name too, because I never knew if like maybe I would turn it into like a band that toured and played shows again. I kind of didn't really think that was really going to happen, but I left it out in the open, like, I'll grab onto that one day if I get the itch. I mean, it's like, I suppose I still could, but, um, yeah, I guess that would be the difference. Dude, it's just maybe a little bit more expansive. I mean, I actually just recorded two songs, and one is the loudest, darkest song I've ever written, and the other one is literally a K-pop cover. And
Oh,
and it literally sounds like Rob, who recorded me, was like, I've never had somebody record two more different songs. He's like, what the hell is going on? I still don't, I mean, at the time of this interview, I still don't even know if I'll make the cover the Feels or if I'll make it like a solo thing. I really just did it because I've always wanted to record like a straight up pop song and with no guitars. And I had such an amazing time recording this song that had no guitars that I'm definitely going to do it again. And so that's definitely something I'm going to do soon, and I'm excited about that. But yeah,
because I think recently I went back and just put Dead Skin on again. I'm like, wow, this is so good, and I still love all the stuff you've done, but I can definitely hear a progression there. Do you think you've
I
gotten better over time as an artist?
it's funny because I do, but I won't give the same. It's like I won't give the same respect to artists I listen to. Like I'm always like, everybody peaks in their early 20s, and and this band is their old stuff's great, yada yada yada. And there are people who I think are still recording pop punk or, pop punk adjacent music, like Dan Vapid and the Cheats, and like, Ben Weasel's new iteration of Screeching Weasel. Like both of those records are great in my opinion. I love them. So it's like you still can write great songs when you get older, but I feel like most bands and artists just don't. Like, but it's I'll be goddamned if I don't think that my stuff now is so much better than the stuff I was doing in, like, even 2006. But I also know what it's like to be a listener, and like you have memories attached to certain songs, and if you're not the songwriter, you're not going to be criticizing it the same way, and I completely understand that. So, you know, it's the same reason that to this day my mom will probably show like the first Tattle Tales album to her friend, and it's like stuff from the year 2000, like literal garbage music, and I'm like, might want to update that a little, Mom.
So your latest single, I think, is definitely one of the best things you've ever done. She's
Thank you.
probably not thinking of me. It's just an amazing song, and it has been released on vinyl by the Spanish label Hurrah Musica. So how'd you end up working with a Spanish label?
It was the most simple process in the world. There really wasn't anything to it. I checked my email. They had emailed me on Bandcamp, and he was just like, "Hey man, here's my label. We're in love with this song, and we would love to get it released on vinyl." And it really didn't matter what the rest of the email said, because I was just going to be like, "Yeah, yes, let's do it," And that's basically what I said. And it was cool, man. I asked them they even gave me a little bit of money to record the B-side, so that I was like, yeah, so this B-side will only exist on this record, exclusively. And that gave it more of a, like an incentive to be kept. Because, like a lot of times, like bands and artists will like put the song out on a physical release, kind of like making the record not pointless, but, well, actually for collectors, I guess it would be the opposite of pointless. People love collecting all types of variants and copies of stuff. But yeah, so then they made it happen. Packaging is beautiful. There's a lot of cool bands on that label. I would love to be able to tour around there eventually, and actually meet those guys, thank them in person, and I'd love to work with them again too.
Oh man, there's so many people in Spain that just love pop music.
Got a really nice response from a lot of cool people. I met some friends there through releasing the record already, so I'm psyched. Bring on all the Spanish power pop friends, please.
Yes, and hopefully when things get better in the world and it's more practical to go over there, that would be.
I know, it's just a nightmare. I've been missing travel the most. I didn't realize how much of a priority it was in my life until I was, until it was taken from me. And I'm just itching to get back on a plane somewhere.
Yeah, you never think about these things that end up being important, and then your life changes dramatically, and you start to realize that really was important.
Yeah, it's terrible. And you can't go anywhere without quarantining for 2 weeks, and then you have to pay for it. And it's like 2 weeks. Like I was going to go somewhere for a week. You want me to quarantine for twice the length of my trip. Like, oh my God. So it's like nobody who's not super rich can go anywhere. It sucks. I mean, I know there's some countries that I'll sort of allow it now, but none of the ones I want to go to.
So ever since we scheduled this interview, I was excited to talk to you about baseball because a lot of people know that you are a huge New York Mets fan. So how did you come to love the Mets, and what was it like rooting for the Mets growing up?
Well, the Mets and pop music are similar in the sense that I don't remember how I got into them. I've tried asking my mom. She doesn't know. I don't have any like pictures or that really tells me any story. I don't have any aunts or uncles that have any idea of what's going on in baseball to know. But I was about 6 years old when the 86 team was happening. So what probably just happened was that they were saturating the market. And just as a kid, I saw it everywhere. Probably just was interested in the colors. And I probably just said, Mets, that's my team. You know, who knows? Like, that's probably what I did. And you know, it is fair to say I'm a big, huge Mets fan, but it's also fair to say that I'm not as big of a Mets fan as a lot of people because there was a whole, I want to say 1994 to 2010, I didn't watch baseball at all. I didn't care about baseball whatsoever. I don't know. I guess when I got a guitar in 94 after hearing Green Day, I stopped caring about everything except guitar and Green Day. Like, that's the only thing I cared about. And it wasn't until I went to a Mets game in 2010 that happened to be Ike Davis's first game as a New York Met. And if any Mets fans are listening to this now, you may not remember this guy, but for a very short amount of time, he was going to be like the new Keith Hernandez for the Mets. This guy had a great glove and he had huge power and, you know, didn't hit for average like Keith Hernandez, but he had some crazy game that was his first game, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And it got me interested. It made me feel like I was watching the Mets as a kid, getting into like Greg Jeffries, who was like the new young, hyped up star. Who you know because he had a great year on the. Well, actually, he had a great year on the Cardinals, but he was all right on the Phillies, right? Yeah. Greg Jeffries had a respectable career, and people don't remember that enough. But yeah, it was always players, you know. I was a hardcore guy when I had the players to root for. And when the players weren't there to root for, I was rooting for the laundry. Don't get me wrong, you know, because there's a lot of changeover in baseball. You're just rooting for the colors at a certain point. But I think it might have been the 2016 season where I sort of said to myself, you know what, Christian, the Mets don't give a shit about you. So don't let anything don't let like a shitty losing team like affect you. And I haven't since. Like, I've been psyched when they were winning, but I just don't let it bother me when they're not. And there's been a whole lot of them not winning.
Yeah, it's a great attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly just entertainment. It's great entertainment. I love the game of baseball. I love that the Mets are my team, and I love that every time you watch it, it's different, literally different, you know, because it's a game and it's unique, and that's cool. But hell, even if the Mets won the World Series, like, what does that do to me? What does that do for me? Nothing. Like, you just kind of go, yes. Then it's like, all right, what now? You know. So that's when I really realized, I was like, this is just a fun thing to watch, and it's not going to affect you. And yeah, I used to let it affect me. I wouldn't like, not for more than like an hour or two, but I'd be bummed if the Mets lost.
Yeah, I've always had a hard time just enjoying baseball and
Yeah.
not letting the Phillies suffering get to me. And I think as a Phillies fan, I get fatalistic because we have the most losses of any franchise in professional sports history. So you jump to the conclusion
that's true.
that
That's true. It's also because you've also played more games, right?
that is true.
Yeah, so it's gonna happen.
But I'm fatalistic. Oh, they got a winning record now, but they're going to blow it like they did the last 2 years. But
Yeah.
I'm just going to enjoy it. Whatever happens, happens. And Bryce Harper is having a great year.
He is having a sneaky great year. Like he's like MVP-ing his ass up this year. Like, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, he's just been on fire since the All-Star
break.
Just...
The NL East has been a shit show. It's been crazy. And the Mets,
it really is.
The Mets had like, I don't know. I think at last count it was 36 games against the Dodgers and Giants in a row, and they lost pretty much 95% of them. And it's just been it's been a hellish year for them, like public relations wise too. Like, it's such a weird fucking year. I don't know what's gonna happen. I do know that Steve Cohen is probably embarrassed and he's probably real pissed. So I hope and anticipate that the team will be very different in the offseason and next year, because the Mets just simply can't. They can't go. They cannot go another year with this core. They can't. It's just it's just a bunch of should be's and would-haves, but there's so many guys who are just having career terrible years, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna let it affect me. It's just
just enjoy it and have fun.
I don't even watch it. No, I don't even watch it. They're so bad that I choose to I'll just watch K-pop videos on YouTube and that's how I get my serotonin.
It's not entertaining you right now if they're playing that poorly.
Not even a little bit, and I refuse to watch a shitty product, And a lot of fans will have their opinions about that. They'll say, "Oh, you don't get to watch them when they're winning in the playoffs if you don't watch the losses." And I say, "You're a moron," because that makes no sense. Because they're a money-making machine in a color scheme. And I have the time of my life watching them when they do well, and I love rooting for guys. I love rooting for my guys. But if you suck, I'm not going to sit through that. There's so much quality stuff to watch in the meantime,
Absolutely.
You got to outdo that for me to watch you, And a winning Mets baseball team does outshine just about anything else, and I'll watch it, when they're winning.
So let's steer this back to the fields here. You mentioned the 2 new songs you recorded. So can we expect more music from the fields in the near future?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't made any exact plans or anything like that, but I would say definitely within the year, before the year's over, there'll be at least a single, possibly a few. So I might do a tiny mini album or something. I've been thinking about just doing like singles and mini albums for the foreseeable future, because it's a lot of money to record an album the way I'd want it done, and it's a labor of love doing this at this point. Like I don't make money, there's, God bless them. Like anytime I release anything, there's like 300 people around the world who like buy it, who will email me about it. And like, it's so fucking cool. Like I love it, and I'm so thankful for those people who like actually love what I do enough to like be on like a mailing list, or people will be like, "Oh, dude, I got the Bandcamp email that you uploaded something, like so stoked." Like, and these people are all over, and there's not a ton of them, but I love every single one of them.
Yeah, I think these days, if you can have 300 loyal fans, you're doing well.
Yeah, and like honestly, some of them don't even like buy the shit. They'll just listen to it and love it, and I don't care. It's what like I put like my links out on Bandcamp Friday and all that stuff, man. I don't care if anybody buys it. I'm so stoked if people do, and like sometimes people will send me like $20 for a song, and I'll be like, "You did not need to do that. It is so sweet, so kind." But I just want people to hear it. It's the only thing I care about. Like when I'm paying money to the engineer of the studio, like I'm not thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna make this money back." Like I don't give a shit. Like I'm just so stoked to be writing songs and love like having that outlet and being able to do it and release it and having anybody like it. It's such a gift, and it's so nice. It's so nice to hear any positive reinforcements.
And these days, it's just there's so much stuff out there with Bandcamp that
Yeah.
if you can get that many people to at least listen to your music and be fans, that's got to be pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm thankful to the people around the world who've like released Tattle Tales stuff and Feels stuff, and who've given me the opportunity to have anybody hear it in like parts of the world, that like Finland and Japan and Australia. It's cool. Like that's why this whole thing we do is just so fun, just being part of like the continuum of music, no matter how small a part of it, it's a blessing.
And I just love that it's this international music scene now, and it's from literally all over the world. Whereas when I started writing about music, I was mainly writing about American bands and buying records by American bands, and now it's like probably half the music I write
Yeah.
about is from Europe.
Oh, totally. And like, if it's there to absorb, like it's gonna like you're gonna find that some of your favorite music is gonna be music that wouldn't have been in your backyard, and we're so we're so lucky to be able to hear bands from literally anywhere. I mean, you can find a new artist who's 15 recording a song and uploading it on Bandcamp, and you can hear a band that you never heard of that's on their 16th album for the first time, and have a whole month's worth of music to get into and be stoked about. Like, and that's so cool. Like, what could be better than that?
It really is. Technology has done some good things and some bad things, but boy, it's certainly created this
Yeah.
immense universe of like awesome music that's out there.
Yeah, you're right. Technology it's got its warts, but for music lovers, you just can't. I mean, for music lovers, you cannot tell me that every new generation is just luckier than the last, because they have everything that came before them and they have all the new stuff, It's just it's awesome.
So as we get ready to wrap up here, can you tell people where they can go to follow the Feels and hear your music?
This is where I'm so not a professional at anything. This is where you can truly understand how I just don't give a shit. I don't have anything really like that. Like, you can follow me on Instagram. My name is Pedal Steel, PEDDLESTEEL. It's just a stupid pun. about pedaling steel. Pedal steels are my favorite instruments. But you could also find the music on Bandcamp, and that is also an annoyingly stupid URL, and it's igotthefeels.bandcamp.com. I think by 2015 thought, websites are going out of, nobody cares about websites anymore, so I just never made one. I may correct that one day and make a Feels website, and I'll let you know if and when I do. But really, I just kind of have my own personal Instagram where I, of course, post everything Feels related, all the clips, all the ideas of new songs, and also a lot of pictures of pretty ladies and a lot of memes and a lot of sarcasm. I have a lot of fun on Instagram. I'll be honest with you. If you know me from Facebook, if you know me as the loud, annoying guy from Facebook, I'm even worse on Instagram.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time talking to you.
And thank you all for listening to the Born Too Late podcast. We will see you next time.